All right, so I have done a lot of talking about what I would call a balanced deck, which is something like this. It's a deck with a tank unit, some low cost units to bring the average cost of the deck down. It's got ways to um, destroy mana bricks and ways to counter what the opponent throws at you. It's got a ranged, at least one ranged unit in it to sit behind some bricks or some of your other high health units. It's also got ways to take hearts. In this case, it's the koala and the ninja. And then it's got a layout of both defensive and offensive bricks. So it's got one offensive brick in this particular deck, the skeleton brick, and then two defensive bricks. Um, that's my personal preference: is two defensive bricks and one offensive brick. Um, so this is what I would call a balanced deck. It has all these different elements in it, and it's well thought out ahead of time. This is what I'd call a baseline deck. Uh, and there is one high elo player I know who plays with what I would call a baseline deck. Um, and or at least he has a tendency to. And the idea is this uses average units. So you think of like the pirate or the duck as like your average units. They cost 3 mana. They do a pretty good amount of damage. They've got a pretty good amount of hit points. They are relatively fast. The pirate is 2, the duck is 3. Move speed. And the idea is if you create an average deck like this, what I would call a baseline deck, it keeps your average cost relatively low. In this case, it's 2.4 because I threw in a 1 mana unit here just to keep the cost low. And these units, they all move pretty quickly. They all do a good amount of heart damage for what you're paying for them. And then it's actually pretty hard to respond to with a balanced deck because every unit that I'm throwing out, for the most part, has more health than the low-cost units in a balanced deck, and I am somewhat able to respond to the tank. So we'll see how it works, and then I'll maybe discuss why I still like balanced decks better, but we'll see if I can manage to do this. I don't normally play with it. I switched out the Stonewall brick for the shield brick because of these units have relatively high speed, and if they pick up a shield, it helps them last against a tank. It also makes them more of a threat for the other player to respond to. I am currently ranked number 530. I wonder if I can break 500 today. We'll see. So, a balanced deck, so a baseline deck, the reason I call this a baseline deck is because I think that this is like basically you're averaging all the cards together and you're just picking the average cards and you're filling your deck with average cards. So every other deck is you want to compare it to a baseline deck like this. Is it better than the baseline deck? Most other decks are better than a baseline deck if you play them right. But you're basically trying to gain some advantage. If you notice, my baseline deck has no way of destroying mana bricks except units. So that's one way you gain an advantage over a baseline deck, is you destroy the mana bricks better. All right. Already I'm doing pretty good. We'll use this. Oh no! How did my guy die? I must have been out-leveled. I wasn't paying attention to that. So if you notice, I'm pretty easily able to counter what this guy's throwing at me. I don't think he's got a tank, from what I can tell. I'm not going to use my ninja. I learned my lesson last time. So, he doesn't have a tank, and that's really helpful for me, because that's really like one of the biggest threats to a deck like this, is if the opponent throws a tank out. And if you notice, the game for the most part moves pretty quickly with a deck like this, because you know a lot of the units can take a whole heart or 2 hearts depending on how you count it, and so that keeps the game actually moving pretty quickly. And they really aren't all that expensive to play either. With a deck like this, I'm pretty much assured that anything my opponent does, I can respond to it pretty easily, because I can pretty easily accumulate the amount of mana that I need in order to play a card that's in my hand. I don't have any spells, so I can always respond with a unit. And none of my units are very expensive. So, and then chances are my unit will survive whatever it's countering, because it's either the same or higher in health and attack. And that's how a deck like this operates. One of the things I have to do is I have to make sure I send a unit down to kill the mana brick. So I have to take I actually have to pick a unit that I think can make it to the mana brick, whatever has the highest chance, either the Witch Doctor with its ranged attack, or something fast moving with some health, to try and destroy that mana brick. Mr. Goo. Wait for it to get through the poison. Alright, pick up a shield. Oh no, it was a... That's what I get for waiting too long. Alright, now this guy's got a tank, so I'm going to make use of my magic brick, as well as the range of the Witch Doctor. So for the same amount of... what do you call it? Mana as his Viking, I was able to destroy his Viking. Oh no! Is that a bow bones? It is a bow bones. Ah! I'm having trouble with his... what do you call it? Riding Hood. I didn't get enough sleep. Okay. Let's get rid of some of these magic bricks, shall we? Will my poison kill it? No, it will not. Oh, it did. Yikes, man. That is one powerful little gnome. Okay. That is not. You could tell by the speed that that was not a devil. Alright. I'm really struggling with this Mr. Goo. The Riding Hood keeps on taking me by surprise, and Mr. Goo is killing off everybody that I'm using to kill it. Very annoying. Oh boy. Here comes his Viking. 2 of them. Oh, I beat him first. That would be the downside of the Viking. It moves too slow. Alright, well, I wasn't awake enough to catch his riding hood. No, I don't feel like a rematch. But, I think you can get the idea that because I'm pumping out so many units, he doesn't have the mana to drop a Viking. So because my units are lower cost, he's having to keep his Viking in his hand because he doesn't have the mana to play it. So that's kind of the advantage of a deck like this. I also was struggling to break his mana bricks, but on the other hand, I was not. You know, I wasn't burdened by having some spells in my deck. I wasn't having to really hang on to a card in my hand that I could only play. I was saving it just for mana bricks. So I wasn't having to deal with that issue. So the thing is, with a balanced deck like this, if you notice my Boulder here, for instance, could kill so much of what's in my deck, my baseline deck. It could kill the Koala. It could kill everything except for the Koala, basically. So for 2 mana, I could get rid of any of these units over here and gain a mana advantage. The Fireball could actually kill this, the Miner. And then I can destroy mana bricks pretty easily. And then the amount of work that it takes for this deck, the baseline deck, to kill a tank, I can back up my tank. So yeah, great. If you saw, I played a duck with a witch doctor with a poison brick, but I could stick a witch doctor behind my tank and pretty easily help my my tank survive that little battle, that little skirmish. And if by using a mummy, then I can't. That the poison doesn't help. So then there is no other option. You're basically having to stop the mummy with units. That's the advantage of a mummy. And if I put a witch doctor behind it or something, or I'm willing to use a boulder to kill off what's attacking it, then it's pretty hard for someone to bring down a mummy. They have to waste so much mana to do it, and very often it takes more than 5 mana to kill a mummy. And if I play a mummy to counter another unit, and then he has to spend even more mana to stop my mummy, then I've really come out ahead in that deal. So that is the concept of a baseline deck, and maybe a little start in thinking of how you might be able to beat a baseline deck. But this is something to think through. Every time you go to do a build a deck, one of the things that's good to think through is how is this better than a baseline deck that looks like this?